Now I know Game Week 14 is still underway, but with such a short turnaround to Game Week 15, I thought I'd run through my top transfer targets and of course the teams and players you need to be targeting ahead of this game week. Now before we dive into today's video, of course if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment and subscribe as we are trying to hit 11,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and it is only possible with your guys' amazing support. I do apologise that this video is going out on a Wednesday. I actually have my work Christmas party, so won't have time to film after the game, so I thought I'd get it out nice and early, of course give you guys all the data breakdowns that you need and obviously players you need to be looking to target for Game Week 15. Of course there will be more content out on Thursday and Friday though, so make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. Of course, let's start off first with the kind of Fantasy Football Hub projected data and clean sheet data going forward for Game Week 15. Sometimes I do feel, you know, we can get lost in obviously looking at fixture runs and runs coming up, and sometimes we do just need to focus on the next game week and take game week by game week. Of course, it's a great fixture for Liverpool, and I do imagine somebody like Mohamed Salah is probably going to be the most captain player looking into this game week. Really good captaincy numbers this week with arguably a pretty difficult fixture. This one, the way that Everton have been playing recently and the way that obviously Liverpool have been playing, I do think it makes him one of the top prospects in terms of captaincy, especially if you've not got Erling Haaland. If you do have Haaland, obviously that Crystal Palace game, I don't think they're looking pretty impressive at the moment, to be honest. So Haaland, maybe one last dance with him if you do still own the big man. Of course, Villa Southampton as well for those that have gone Watkins. Obviously Rodgers as well, also going to be a very appealing asset for that one. I think the Brentford Newcastle game could be a really interesting one. I expect both teams to score. Obviously Brentford have an absolutely fantastic home record. It's currently the second best home record in the Premier League at the time of recording. They're also the entertainers of the league. They are scoring so many goals recently. You know, that's why maybe it could be worth giving Brian Mbeumo Visser one last chance at home against Brentford. Manchester United Forest, I don't really know how to call that one, to be honest. A good fixture for Arsenal away at Fulham. And then we've also got some other interesting games taking place on the Sunday. But obviously the big one from an FPL perspective is probably going to be Chelsea Spurs. I do think that Chelsea will probably win that game, and looking at this model as well, it is fancying them to do quite well with projected goals and of course clean sheets. Let's move on then. Let's take a look at the next 5 game weeks. We're going to be using the 11FI data as always. I think this is such a useful and valuable tool to be looking at defenses and attacks you need to be targeting over the next 5 to 6 game weeks. Of course, make sure to go and check out their amazing website as always, a link in the description. First off, let's take a look at clean sheets then. Obviously Arsenal are a team that I'm going to be recommending very heavily. They're about to go on this absolutely stupendous run of fixtures. I believe there's maybe a fixture around game week 25 that's a little bit difficult, or 23, can't quite remember off the top of my head, but it's a really good long run. I think as well, if you look at the XG conceded table, they're currently sat second in that as well, so I'd be very kind of bullish on the likes of Gabriel, obviously if he plays tonight, Saliba, and of course David Raya as well. Very bullish on all of those players. Liverpool as well, we're going to talk about some of their assets in a second, but I definitely think they've got some great fixtures. Currently the best team as well in the league for XG conceded. You know, the best defence as well in terms of clean sheets and all that good stuff. Like, they've been absolutely immense. Obviously away at Goodison on Saturday, Everton not really posing too much of a threat attacking wise, so I do think that Liverpool will keep a clean sheet there. The 11FI data as well is also backing up that claim, also with some other decent chances as well. Trent Alexander-Arnold returning from injury, looking decent in the City game as well, could be a really valuable option going forward, especially with those people that aren't on the Haaland teams. Chelsea have got a really good run. Obviously the 15 fixture against Spurs, probably going to be one of those where if you've obviously got better options, play them, but post that again it starts this absolutely terrific run. So I definitely think people like Levi Colwill. Cucurella I'm not a big fan of. I know some people are, but if you look at his underlying data, he's actually not doing anything kind of different to what obviously Levi Colwill is sort of putting up, so there's no real point spending that extra 0.5 million in my personal opinion. Of course Malo Gusto as well could also be an option, and Sanchez in goal. Then we've got Bournemouth, who are about to embark on a absolutely tremendous run with a game week 15 fixture away at Ipswich. So Kirkes, Zabania, who's the other one they've got? Zabania, and I can't remember the other one off the top of my head. I nearly said Sabitslai then, but that's not it. But yeah, they're definitely a defence I would maybe consider over the next few weeks as well. In terms of teams we probably want to be starting to look away from, obviously Nottingham Forest, still not the best fixtures going forward, but they are still pretty good defence. Brentford as well, definitely time to cut our losses if you've obviously selected people like Pinnock and stuff like that. The fixtures are really turning away. And of course here we can see that the clean sheet percentages are dropping off a cliff. And most weeks, I'm going to just say this because I've had a few people ask me about it. Most weeks I wouldn't probably play an Ipswich, a Southampton or a Leicester 4 million defender. I would actually prefer to play one of my other defenders, to be honest, unless I would say they may be playing each other at home. I'm not going to gamble on it. I don't think it's worth it. They're all pretty terrible defences. Obviously, maybe Rude might improve their defensive record. We'll have to see what the numbers look like. But for me right now, I probably would not be recommending playing any of the 4 million defenders unless they have a game against each other. Let's move on then. Let's take a look at the projected goal data for the next 5 game weeks. City, interestingly, some really high numbers over here. So it will be interesting to see how Haaland gets on. I do feel like maybe if he grabs 2 goals or even a hat-trick tonight, he definitely could shake up the template because there is seeming to be one that is forming, and that of course is with a midfield three of Saka, Palmer and Mohamed Salah. It's a very good template for a very good reason. These players are exceptional at the moment, all delivering well, all with great fixtures coming up, but you do feel maybe Haaland could shake it up as well going into the weekend with the Palace game, as we see the projected goals as well for 16 are really valuable, 18 and 19 also looking pretty good. So it is going to be interesting to see how Manchester City and Erling Haaland do respond. There's been reports as well that Pep's actually locked himself away in the training ground to kind of find a solution for their current losing streak. Whether or not he's going to be going mental or whether or not he has found the solution, we're going to have to wait and see. But that one could potentially be a game changer as well. Liverpool, some really good projected numbers, so I think Mohamed Salah is going to be absolutely essential. In terms of the other Liverpool attackers, I think there's too much rotation for me to be going there. Saka is a worthwhile investment as well. We're seeing some really strong projected numbers going forward, as with Chelsea as well. So Nicholas Jackson, obviously if he doesn't pick up a yellow card tonight, and of course Cole Palmer, also going to be pretty decent options. Villa's next 3 or 2 I would say are probably going to be pretty strong. Obviously decent fixture in 15, so if you've got Watkins, could be an alternative captain that you potentially maybe want to look at. Bournemouth again, another team that I am going to suggest, obviously worthwhile some investment from an attacking standpoint, decent projected goals. Obviously Ipswich away in 15, a pretty delightful fixture. Same with Brighton as well, really good set of fixtures, so João Pedro, Matoma, players like that, also probably worth a little bit of consideration going further forward. We are seeing, unfortunately, a drop for Brentford and Fulham, so the likes of Emile Smith-Rowe over the next few weeks, probably not really going to be an option unless obviously you can bench him for the difficult fixtures in 15 and 16 and get the decent projected goal numbers from 17. But Brentford, we are seeing quite a big tail off after the Newcastle game, so unfortunately, Brian Mbeumo and Visser, their time is probably up within most people's teams. That was the 11-5 data. Like I said, feel free to go and check it out in the description. Amazing work. Not only this, the data that I obviously show in the videos, they've got so much more going off on their website, so feel free to go and check them out. Right, let's start off then. Let's take a look at some players I'm going to be looking at for not only my team, but obviously looking for your guys' teams as well. I had a comment on Twitter asking me to look at cheap defenders for this upcoming transfer targets video, and 2 that I think, obviously if Gomez does start tonight, bearing all obviously team changes and stuff like that, I think these 2 will be arguably some of the best value defenders to be going and buying. Chelsea, like I said, after this Tottenham run, have an amazing run. We saw with the 11-5 data as well, really solid clean sheet potential as well, and they've actually been arguably a really improved side under Maresca as well. I think defensively as well, they're starting to build some confidence. Whether or not that Wesley Fofana injury is going to have a big impact, we're going to have to wait and see, but for 4.5 million for a player that you won't really have to think about longer term because the fixtures are that good, I think Levi Colwill is a very smart pickup. Same goes with Joe Gomez, but obviously doesn't have the same longevity as Levi Colwill in your side. If you're obviously looking for that cheaper route into the Liverpool back line, then Joe Gomez could be that man. They've got some good fixtures. We again saw that with the 11-5 data, plenty of clean sheet opportunities, top of XG conceded as well. It looks like he's going to be the starting centre-back next to Virgil van Dijk, and of course with Konate out for 5 to 6 weeks, I do feel like you're probably going to pick up quite a few fixtures over that run as well well before obviously Konate does enter the side. Of course, they do have Kwanzaa, who can also play at centre-back, but I think with Trent coming back from kind of a little bit of an injury and some of the comments I've been reading, I feel like he's probably going to be utilised more at right-back, or even Joe Gomez is pushed out to right-back when they want to take Trent off, rather than Gomez being benched. But both of these guys, I think, could be amazing value over the next few weeks. Let's move on then. Let's kind of stick with that Liverpool theme. Obviously, I'm very, very bullish on them at the moment. Watch them go and lose to Newcastle tonight, but I'm very, very bullish for a very good reason. They are just absolutely immense at defending. Virgil van Dijk probably getting himself back to where he was a few years ago. The Manchester City game was a prime example of like high quality Virgil van Dijk, like best Premier League defender at the moment, or like within the past 5 years levels. That's where he was at the weekend. Trent put in an amazing performance as well. Obviously, like I said, is coming back from quite a long-term kind of absence, so it is going to, have to rehabilitate him. Champions League football, obviously Carabao Cup football as well, so there is probably going to be some games where he does get early substitutions, but I believe the data that he's still putting in is pretty decent. It's 0.33 expected goal involvement per 90. Now, interestingly, a lot of people were looking at like the likes of Jared Bowen. He was only at 0.39, obviously before last night's game, and you think, you're paying a little bit less for Trent. Obviously, he's playing for the best team in the league in terms of defence, so you add that in. If he picks up an assist along the way as well, or some other sort of goal involvement, you're looking at a really, really good asset. So maybe, I think, potentially with, people looking to sell off Bryan Mbeumo, the other replacements not really looking too appetising around that price point, I think Trent maybe shifting into that defence could be the route that goes further forward, but maybe one to consider, like I said. Virgil van Dijk, of course, is the other option. 1 goal, 1 assist within the past 5 game weeks. He's more a threat from set pieces, and I would say probably a little bit more likely to maybe pick up some bonus points compared to Trent, probably because he's going to be on the pitch for longer, meaning he's going to have more chance to make tackles, blocks, all that stuff that obviously accumulates for defenders to pick up bonus points as well. But for me, really, I think it is down to that 11-5 data, and of course the strong start Liverpool have made defensively this season that is making me think it is time to invest in that back line. I've not really seen too many people with Liverpool players as well. Maybe, of course, if you are stuck, maybe somebody like Flecken could also go up to an Alisson when he is fully fit and available as well. So plenty of decent options to be looking to invest into that Liverpool backline with, for me personally. Right, let's take a look at our final player. Like I said, there will be more transfer targets videos coming out over the next few days, FPL experts, and of course team selections and streams and all like that coming out over the next few days. But of course, a lot of the games still are yet to be played, but like I said, unfortunately I do have my Christmas due tonight, so we are having to film this this in the afternoon. And Jared Bowen is going to be the final player I wanted to talk about, because again, people will probably still be looking to shift away from Bryan Mbeumo unless he absolutely smashes it tonight and leaves egg on my face. And I still feel like Jared Bowen, the next 4 fixtures are still pretty decent. Wolves, Brighton and Southampton are all within the bottom 6 sides for XG conceded so far this season. And last night, we saw vintage Jared Bowen. Very, very unfortunate not to have came away with an attacking return. I was watching the game. I didn't make the transfer to Jared Bowen. I kept Mbeumo. And my God, I was pretty much watching it behind the sofa. I've got a real soft spot for Jared Bowen, so it took a lot for me not to bring him in. And I genuinely feel the people that went for him last night are so unfortunate, so unlucky, because the amount of chances he was creating, the amount of opportunities he was getting himself, marginal away from a haul. And that's sometimes what FPL comes down to. You can make the correct picks like this, and it is unfortunately sometimes just a coin flip, isn't it, really? The player goes in an inch wider, it's in the goal. Honestly, the one off the line as well, which would have been a Jared Bowen assist, a couple more inches one way or the other, it's a goal, it's not a goal. Honestly, sometimes FPL, of course, does come down to these fine margins, and I feel like Jared Bowen, he is still playing for, and I would say it's hard to describe West Ham, isn't it, at the moment? I definitely feel there's a disconnect between the fans and Lopetegui, so I imagine if they lose the Wolves game at the weekend, he's probably going to be gone, so you might potentially get a new manager bounce for 3 fixtures that could all be pretty decent. But obviously Wolves have their defensive woes. Like I said, one of the worst teams in the league for XG conceded as well, so not an easy team. West Ham at home as well. You would imagine Lopetegui needs to get something out of this game, and if anybody's probably going to do it for him, it is going to be Jared Bowen. Like I said, owners last night probably have to feel a little bit hard done by, but still could be a potential decent pickup for the next 4 fixtures. Those were my transfer targets, and of course the data for the next 5 to 6 game weeks. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and if you've got any questions about your team, get them in as well, as I will try to answer as many questions as I possibly can. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in game week 15.